So what's going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So I previously made a video on the latest exotic weapons that came out thanks to the Curse of Osiris DLC. So today I thought I should showcase some of the armor pieces that came out as well and talk a bit in depth about them while ranking them. And like the weapons, Bungie also added a ton of returning Destiny 1 exotic armor pieces, so some of these may be familiar to some of you guys already. Anyways, let's get straight into the video with the number 10 spot, which is going to be the Aeon set. Starting off the video, I'm putting 3 different pieces, Aeon Soul, Aeon Swift, and the Aeon Safe on the number 10 spot, as they basically have the same concept in terms of their intrinsic, so there really wouldn't have been a point of separating them. Now, the reason they're ranked this low on the list is due to the fact that this requires a lot of synergy to be truly benefited from, and it doesn't really work well solo at all. The reason for this is because each of the pieces benefit teammates with very specific boosts and work only when you do a very specific thing. For example, Aeon Safe activates when you summon a barricade, and it gives grenade energy to warlocks, barricade energy to titans, and dodge energy to hunters, and the rest of the pieces also do pretty much the same thing. These sort of perks can help if you're with a group of friends that want to closely work together and help each other, but if you're playing solo or PvP, there would be really no point in having any of these pieces on. And at number 9, we've got Kepfri's Horn. Next on the list, we've got a very grotesque looking helmet. Its intrinsic is called Solar Rampart and makes it so solar damage kills recharge your barricade, which unleashes a blast of solar energy when summoned. Now, the blast that it unleashes isn't continuous as it occurs and then fades, and unfortunately it's not as big as your barricade, but it can reach a large range forward. It does help recharge your barricade fairly faster when solar damage kills occur, so if you want to combo this well, you should definitely stick a solar weapon into your Guardian's arsenal. This can also be comboed with the Code of the Siegebreaker path, and the damage from the blast is alright, but it's really nothing too amazing. In at number 8, we've got Shinobu's Vow. Now for the next piece, we've got an exotic gauntlet. Its intrinsic new tricks improve skip grenades and gain an additional skip grenade charge. And while it does improve skip grenades, they aren't improved a substantial amount to where it will really change too much in PvP, as it doesn't deal as much damage as it should, but it does definitely weaken an enemy player enough to where it's easy to finish them off with your gun afterwards. However, like I mentioned, they don't deal that much damage, so I wouldn't recommend it in PvP. This can come in really handy in PvE if you get surrounded by a ton of guys and want to wipe them out quick, because you also get that extra skip grenade charge, but other than that, it's not really as useful. Number 7, Vesper of Radius. The next armor piece I want to look at is chest armor known as Vesper of Radius. Its intrinsic perk is Planetoid Torrent, and essentially what it does is it makes it so that rifts release an arc shockwave when cast. Rift energy also recharges faster when you're surrounded by enemies. When the arc shockwave does get triggered, it doesn't really do much damage. However, it does recharge your rift energy well if you have a decent amount of enemies around you. You may be thinking that you don't really need rifts up constantly, and so this may not be the greatest solo, but if you're playing with friends, especially on the raid, rifts will come in extremely useful, and this piece can allow you to place rift after rift after rift if you catch yourself surrounded by a ton of guys. In at number 6, we've got Gemini Jester. As for the next piece, let's take a look at these awesome purple pants. Its intrinsic, Misdirection, makes it so that dodging disorients nearby enemies and temporarily removes their radar. Now, not only is it a good perk for it to disorient nearby enemies, but it removing someone's radar can make them even less aware of their environment. You may not catch yourself dodging that often, but with this perk, it can end up being very useful in PvP. In PvE, I don't see much of a use from this, as the enemies you encounter are pretty weak already, and so it won't make much of a difference if you get to disorient them. Of course, this can be helpful for guys with more health and power, but overall this gets much more use in PvP rather than PvE. Number 5, we've got Helm of Saint 14. As for the next exotic, we've got a fancy helmet known as the Helm of Saint 14. Its intrinsic is called Starless Night, and it makes it so that your Ward of Dawn blinds enemies that enter it. Guarding with your Sentinel Shield temporarily blinds enemies as well. The blinding from your Ward of Dawn lasts for almost 7 seconds, which is actually a really good amount of time. Even if they leave your ward, they still stay in that blinded state until about 7 seconds go by. And being able to blind your enemies leaves them extremely vulnerable, which can allow you to kill them very easily afterwards. Now, unfortunately, its effects don't work on bosses and such like many of the other armor's effects, but it's still extremely useful on the small front. Number 4, the Stag. The next piece of armor I want to showcase is a helmet by the name of the Stag, and you could probably infer just by the name and from looking at the cool helmet itself, the Stag's intrinsic, Dearly Departed, gives you rift energy when you are critically critically wounded, and when you die, it creates a brief healing rift over your corpse. The amount of rift energy it gives you is insane, and it charges at least 2/3 of your rift. So if you need a bit of push to activate your rift, you will have it when you need it, so you can get behind cover if needed and make use of it. It creating a healing rift after your death can come in really handy by healing your teammates that are still fighting an enemy after you die, and it can also give them a chance to revive you with extra protection on their side. So even if there is a lot of firepower going on, the rift will give enough time for a friend of yours to swoop in and revive you without as much. And in at number 3, we've got the Mark 44 stand-asides. Now, as for the next exotic gear, we've got leg armor for Titans, and its perk is called Seriously Watch Out, and what it does is that it grants an overshield when you sprint at full health with Seismic Strike, Hammer Strike, or Shield Bash equipped. Using those abilities also recharges a portion of your melee. That extra layer of protection can be incredibly useful, not just in PvE, but in PvP as well. Now, you won't be able to regenerate your extra shields if you lose some of your health, as you have to wait to regenerate before you can stack on your shields from the perk, so that's one thing to consider about this exotic, but it's still a really good pick though, as you are like an absolute tank when your shields are up, and they don't take long to stack as long as you have full health. Now, as for the second half of this leg's armor intrinsic, hitting someone with one of your melee abilities actually gives you about half of your melee back, which is a great amount to help you get back on track for another melee. Overall, this is a really solid exotic that you should definitely try out if you obtain it. And at number 2, we've got the Graviton Forfeit. As for the next piece, we've got a helmet that's really freaking good for PvP. Its intrinsic is Vanishing Shadow, and what this does is it increases the duration of invisibility effects. And not only that, but it also makes your melee recharge faster while you're invisible. Going invisible can allow you to go unnoticed and perhaps avoid a situation that could have gotten you killed by an enemy, but it can also allow you to flank your opponents, so the increased duration and stealth, which is 2.5 seconds extra, is an extreme plus from this exotic. The melee recharge is also great, as it can get up to half your melee back when you go invisible, and this can allow you to be able to use your melee on someone right after you go out of your invisible state, if that was your intention. Overall, the boost to the duration of your invisibility can come in really handy for sneaking up on enemy players on both PvP and PvE, or can serve as a good escape route if needed. And in at number 1, we've got the Ophidian Aspect. Now, lastly, we've got not just one of the best pieces from this DLC specifically, but one of the best looking exotics for sure. Ophidian Aspect's intrinsic is Cobra Totemic, and it makes it so that your weapons are ready and reload very quickly. It also extends your melee range, and the amount it extends is decent, as you have the advantage of meleeing someone from afar without them even being close to touching you, as you get about 2 steps of an extension. This is overall really useful for its perks, as well as the fact that it works for really any class, and I would definitely recommend you use this in PvP. It works fine at PvE as well, but it really shines when you're in the Crucible. So there you guys have it. Those were some of the Curse of Osiris armor pieces ranked from 10. Let me know what you guys think about these pieces and if you like them or not. It seems as though Bungie is recycling a ton of their old gear from Destiny 1. Do you like this idea as it brings back some of the Destiny 1 vibes, or do you think this is just plain lazy and uncreative? And while some of the returning pieces have gotten some improvements that I've noticed, is it really enough of an excuse to bring them back? Feel free to drop your thoughts on that in the comment section below. Again, this is my opinion. Don't freak out in the comment section. I already know there's going to be like a bunch of other comments listing a bunch of other items in game. You don't have to tell me about that stuff because I already know it's going to be there, but some of those people probably didn't even watch the whole video through.